Hello, this is Brandon Ivey with Shopping Show Up with some more e-commerce news, and I'm finding it interesting that most of the e-commerce news is coming out of China lately. What does that tell you? Well, here's an article titled Chinese Women Went from Stay-at-Home to Breadwinners in One Generation. Deb Wiedenhammer has been running auctions for 3 years in the French concession in Shanghai, but still finds herself the center of attention at the end of the shopping spree. Chinese women flock to her side, wanting to understand more, not about the high-end handbags and imported jewelry they just purchased, but about her life. They ask what I had to give up to have a career, says the CEO of the U.S. American Auction Company and of its Chinese subsidiary, Ivey Auction Co. Then they're a little surprised when I tell them nothing. My husband is very supportive. I travel all the time. Chances are they're soaking in the lessons fast. Wiedenhammer is a groundbreaker in the auction business. Her companies have 280 employees and 28 employees respectively. These generations of Chinese women are groundbreakers too. In mainland China, women's average contribution to the household income has jumped to 50% from just 20% in 1980. In fact, women's rise in their spending propelled China to its status as the world's largest e-commerce market in 2013. That was 2 years ago. Government stats put the U.S. market at about $270 billion and the Chinese market at $308 billion last year. That year. Just 10 years ago, most Western companies were ignoring Chinese women altogether. The stereotype was stay-at-home women who contributed little to household income. China was a huge market, but it was seen as a huge monolithic market. When executives that I interviewed talked about it, they liked to say 1.3 billion consumers and had little more context than that. Fast forward to today. The Chinese market is far from monolithic. It's more likely to be called complex, as some retailers have stumbled trying to break into it, stymied by high taxes, changing regulations, and a lack of knowledge of the cultural differences. And most companies are well aware now that the driving force behind China's fast retail growth, and especially its e-commerce growth, is women who are increasingly earning their own money, and using it to shop. In 2015, retail sales in Asia were forecast to grow by an average of 4.6% on a volume basis to 7.6 trillion. Growth was expected to be 2.5% in North America and 0.8% in Europe. Asia is expected to surpass North America as the world's largest e-commerce market this year, according to the Economist Intelligence Unit, which surveyed 5,500 women in major cities in Greater China, India, Japan, Singapore, and South Korea to get a sense of women's emerging spending power. Worldwide, women control about $20 trillion of consumer spending, according to the International Finance Corp. The glimpse of the Chinese women that emerges from the report is fascinating. Some 43% of Chinese women are in executive, managerial, or professional jobs. 62% are joint breadwinners, and 76% have their own bank account, according to the report. I asked Wiedenhammer the lessons she has learned about the Chinese market. Her company's auctions, which are often held in malls and have a club cocktail atmosphere, are one vehicle for high-end brands to move merchandise that hasn't sold. Wiedenhammer's company also does market research for companies that want to test a product in the Chinese market. The latter service costs $15,000. Many of the women are rising professional stars. The lives of urban Asian women are a far cry from the stereotypes many Americans hold. For instance, women held 29% of senior management positions in Asia in 2013, a higher percentage than America or European women. They are becoming trendsetters. The retail market is developing fast, and some women are already moving away from identifying themselves by the big brands. Where a year or two ago it was important to have a brand emblazoned bag, for instance, more women have been opting for subtle, though high-priced items, Wiedenhammer said. They want to be on the cutting edge of what's hot, what's new. I see more and more people pulling away from bigger, well-known brands into less popular brands. She mentioned an Italian jewelry boutique in Florence called Mona Lona. They prefer non-traditional shopping venues. In some ways, perhaps Chinese women are moving faster than their culture. 69% told the surveyors from the Economist Intelligence Unit that they prefer online shopping, in part because they're still talked down to in traditional shops. Wow. They are becoming more discriminating and smarter with their purchases. You are starting to see taste emerge, said Wiedenhammer. When the market first opened up and all these big brands ran into China to capture the money that was there, you saw young women spend their entire paychecks. Now women are deciding what they want. They don't feel as compelled to spend. It's not just young women who are spending. Though big retailers are tending to focus their energy on women in their 20s and 30s, they may be missing the boat on a particular dynamic in China, which is the tendency for grandmothers to spend enormous amounts on gifts for their grandchildren. And one final very interesting point. Wiedenhammer said she often finds herself advising American retailers to spend a lot more time and energy on packaging. An item might be wrapped in tissue, placed in a box, tied with a ribbon, and placed inside a bag. There is just an elegance to the culture, she said. Very interesting. Brandon Ivey, Shopping Sherlock.